Hey there, welcome back. This is Ed from Barnabas Robotics. So in this video, what we want to do is I want to show you how to add a no-touch sensor to your spinning robot tree. So this is our spinning robot tree here, and what we've done is we've added 2 batteries to it to make it go twice as fast. So if you don't know how to do that, I have that in a previous video. I'll put that link in the description just in case. But this is two batteries, and so it's going to go pretty fast. Just want to make sure it's still working. Okay, it's working pretty well. So now what we want to do is add a no-touch sensor, kind of like those trash cans that you have, where you go up to it and you just put your hand on it, and it's no touch, so it's sanitary, so your hands don't get dirty, and it opens without any touching. So it's the same kind of sensor that we're going to use, but we're going to use it to control our robot. So let's go ahead and see how we're going to do that. We're going to start by first planning the circuit. Okay, so what I like to do is first, let's draw out the circuit that we currently have. So we have 2 batteries. So let's get this going here. So 1 battery here. There's a plus and a minus. We have a second battery here, plus and a minus, and I like to call them B1 for battery 1 and B2 for battery 2 so that we don't get confused. Alright, the minus of B1 connects to the plus of B2. That's one connection there. And then the minus is out like that. And then up here, the plus of B1 is going to come out like that. Now these all connect to the motor. So let's go ahead and draw our motor here. We have our motor here. M for motor. Got a plus and a minus as well. And red color for plus. Okay. Okay, so this is the current circuit that we've built. When we make it like this, the robot starts spinning. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the motor connection. Okay, we're going to put something else there instead. Now the motor will come back later, so don't worry about that. Let's get rid of that. We are going to put in a sensor. So go into my screen here, my top-down view. This is my robot. I'm going to take the top off here so that we can see more clearly, okay? And so I'm just going to put the motor here. Alright, so the sensor is going to be in the bag here, and the sensor looks like this, okay? Now what this is a infrared sensor. So what's going on is that there's infrared light coming out of this clear light, and it's going and it's bouncing off objects and coming back. Okay, and it comes back to this black little light here, and so this is detecting the infrared that's coming back. Now, depending on how much infrared is coming back to the black little light here, that determines how far things are. Okay, so that's how this little sensor works. If we look closely, okay, on the white writing here, we have out, GND, and VCC. Okay, so there are 3 pins here that we're going to have to connect to. So let's draw on our circuit here. On my top right, you're going to look at the top right there. We have, this is going to be my sensor, okay? I'm going to say S for sensor. Alright, so VCC is going to be connected to the red wire right here. So that's the plus of B1. And we have GND is going to be connected to the minus of B2 here. Alright? And there's a third pin out there, and it's called out. So I'm just going to write that right here. Out. Okay? Now, out we're going to put in later. so let's not worry about out for now. Let's connect it to the VCC and the GND connections. All right, so how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is talk a little bit about the breadboard. Okay, so if we look at the breadboard here, the first thing that we want to do is make sure we turn it horizontal like this, okay? Not vertical. All right, if you turn it vertical, the things that I say to you will not make any sense. It's all going to get mixed up. So we got to turn it horizontal. And the way that this works is that if we have a hole that is on the same row, those holes are connected. So if you look at this, we have 5 rows. Row 1 up here, row 2, row 3, all the way down to 5, okay? And so here's an example. All right, so if I take this wire right here and stick it into that hole right here, if I take the other side and stick it, for example, in that hole right there, I've just connected the wire to itself because the 2 pins are in the same row. If I put it down here, the pins are no longer connected to each other because this hole right here is not in that, not in the same row. All right, and that's it. So what the breadboard does is that it helps us make connections, and it's especially helpful when we need to make connections, when we need to make multiple connections to the same thing. Okay, because look, we have 5 holes. You can connect 5 different things together by putting them in the same row. All right, so that's enough about the breadboard. So now let's use the breadboard to make this circuit. All right, so let's see, we've got our thing here. All right, so what we're going to do is go ahead and stick it into the breadboard, and we want to make sure that each pin is on its own row, like that. Okay. Now, if you see this, I have VCC is on row 5, the bottom row here. GND is on row 4, and then out is on row 3 up there. All right, that's going to be important because look what we have to do, right? We have our batteries here. So let me make sure you can see. Okay, these are my 2 batteries. Now B1 is going to be the orange battery, and here's the plus of B1. Okay, so looking up at the top right, my circuit up there, right? What's it say? The plus of B1, which is red, needs to go to VCC. So what I do is look at my breadboard and I find VCC row. Well, VCC is down here, so I can stick it in any of these holes down here. So I'm going to stick it right there. Okay? And then what is it? What's the other part say on my circuit up there? It says the minus of B2. So B2 is this battery here, and the minus of B2 is this black wire. Okay, it needs to go to the GND, connect to GND. Now GND is going to be row number 4 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it in. There we go. Now if you do that correctly, you're going to see a power light turn on. You see that green light right there? That's the power light of our sensor. Now it's not triggered yet. To actually trigger it, you have to put your hand in. See, watch, when I put my hand in front of it, you see there's that other green light that turns on. There we go. So we have just powered on our sensor here, our IR sensor, infrared sensor, and it's working because we've tested it. When we put our hand up to it, that green light turns on. That means it's triggered. Now, some of you guys might have one that's not working. Okay, we've had that in the other class. So imagine this. There's a situation where, look, the green light, this second green light, make sure you can see here. See, this second green light is just always on. So what that means is that you need to take this little screwdriver, and there's a little screw here to calibrate or set. So what you want to do is turn it counterclockwise until the light turns off. Okay, it's like working, but still not solid. So what I'm going to do is keep turning a little bit more counterclockwise. Okay, great. Now it's working. Okay, so sometimes you need to set it up to make sure that it works. You might be in another situation where you turned it all like too far counterclockwise, and look, the light just, that other sensor light never turns on. That means you're too far counterclockwise. So what you need to do is turn it clockwise until, and then try it. And there we go. It works again. Okay? So the key is to kind of get the screw kind of in the middle. If you go too far, if you go all the way to the counterclockwise direction, it's not going to work. It's always going to be off. If you turn it all the way to the right, it's always that little light, or all the way clockwise, the light's going to always be on, and then it's not working either. Okay, so the fine point, the point we're looking for is somewhere in the middle. Okay, and it should do this. You put your hand up to it, and the green light turns on. Great. So that's working. We know that when we put our hand up to it, it triggers. But what we have to do now is connect this trigger to our motor, so that when we touch it, or it's not when we touch it, when we almost touch it, right? When we trigger the no touch 10 sensor, it actually moves the motor. So how do we do that? Let's go back to our schematic here. Okay, or our circuit here, right? Schematic or circuit. All right. So what happens here is that we need to connect the out to something. Well, what does it need to connect to? You can just draw what I draw or follow along. I will explain what I'm drawing. But first, I'm going to do this, okay? So we're connecting this to a device that has 3 pins on it. Okay? All right, these 3 pins are named G, S, and D. All right? And just so we know, because you might be curious, S is for source, G is for gate, and D is for drain. Okay, and what is this device here? This device is called a transistor. A transistor is basically a switch that is used by electronics. All right, so what we're going to do is use this switch to turn our motor off and on. Now, any switch needs a way to turn off and on, right? So the thing that allows you to turn your transistor off and on, the key here, is the gate. Okay? You can kind of think of like a gate, like in your backyard fence or something, or any kind of gate like that, garage door gate, where the gate is the thing that controls the flow. Okay? So the gate can open and close, and depending if it's open or closed, that allows electricity to flow through the source and drain. Okay? So if the gate is closed, there's no flow. Okay? But if the gate is open, then you get the flow. And that's kind of all we need to know for now. And so what we're doing is we're connecting the gate to where? The out of our sensor. So what that's going to do is whenever our sensor is triggered, it's going to open the gate. Whenever it's not triggered, it's going to close the gate. Okay? So that's cool. Now let's finish these connections. Let's see. We got the source is going to be connected to up here to VCC. Okay? And then the motor is going to be connected to the drain down here. Because remember, we still have the motor. The motor has to be on this somewhere. Here's our motor. There's a plus and a minus. Okay. So the minus of the motor is going to be connected down here. All right. I like to make that little connections drawing here. All right. And then the plus of the motor is connected to the drain like that. Okay. And actually, I'm going to use a yellow here because I have a yellow wire, and that's going to help us not get confused later. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and build this circuit. All right, so if you look at the top right, I have, I'm going to highlight what we've already built. We've built this part already. This part is already done, okay? So that's why our light is on right now, right? So our sensor is powered on. So let's go ahead and build this part. Let's connect out to the gate. All right. And in order to do that, almost forgot, we need to get our transistor, okay? So in this bag, get the transistor. It's a device with three pins here. It looks like this, okay? I'm gonna put it right there. All right. Now here's the thing with these transistors. It's kind of confusing the way that the pins are ordered, okay? Right now, like the way that I've drawn it on my circuit, I have gate is in the middle, right? But for the pins here, it's actually not like that. This one, when we lay it flat like this, and the top is facing us, you're going to see this writing here, SSFGA6115. Okay, you want to make sure you can see that so we're looking at the right way. This first pin right now, that is actually the gate. So this is G. The middle pin is drain, so D. And then the last pin right there is S, or the source. Okay? So that's something we want to remember, because if we don't know these pins, we're not going to be able to match it to our circuit there, our drawing there, right? All right, so I want to connect the gate to the out pin. So here's what I do. My gate is this pin right here, right? This first one right here where my finger is touching. That needs to connect to out. Now out, if we look at my breadboard, is actually row number 3, like this one where my screwdriver is right now, pointing on this row. So I can actually take this and then turn it this way, and what I've done now is I've connected the gate, okay, the gate to out, because I put the gate on the same row as out. All right, I'm going to give you a closer look here. All right, again, it's kind of hard to see. There you go. Hopefully you get a good view there. All right, I think that should help. Okay. Now, the other thing to make sure, so you see the other 2 pins on my transistor? There's nothing else on those rows, right? The other 2 pins being the drain and the source, it's clear. So we want to make sure the other 2 pins are on rows with nothing on it, otherwise things will get messed up too, because we gotta make sure they're connected to the right place. All right, so that's done. Going back to my top right here, now let's connect the source to VCC, okay? The source to VCC. So where's the source? The source is actually going to be up here on row number 1 where my screwdriver is. Okay, row number 1. So let's go ahead and grab a red wire for power or VCC. Okay, a red wire, a pin-to-pin version. And let's connect one side to VCC row, which is up there, row number 1, right? And then we have to say, okay, so where is VCC? Well, VCC is all the way down here on row number 5, right? And if we forget, we can always look and say, well, there's another red wire going down here. And then also the VCC pin of the sensor is on this row, so that must be the VCC row. So now I go like this. Boom. Now I have that connection. Okay, so at this point now my source is connected to VCC because I've connected this top row, row number 1, down to the bottom row. Okay. giving you another camera view here. I know it's a lot of stuff there. We got a lot of connections in this breadboard here. Alright, we're almost there. Alright, sorry, that was not what I meant to do. The next one is the drain to the plus of the motor. Let's do this connection. The drain to the plus of the motor. So let's get the yellow wire here. Okay, find our drain. The drain is going to be the one that we haven't connected to yet. So let's take one side of this yellow wire and stick it into the drain, which is the middle pin of our transistor. So I'll put it right here. That's right. Okay. That's my drain. And then now this goes into, where does it say? The plus of the motor. So here's my motor. And the plus of my motor is the red wire. There we go. I am almost done, guys. Alright, I have one more connection. The minus of the motor, like look at my top right, I'm highlighting. The minus of the motor goes to the G and D row. So let's get a black wire here. Okay. And let's go with the minus of the motor, which is right here. This goes into the G and D row. So now you look at all this craziness. It's kind of hard to see right away, but if you study it, you find out, okay, so where is my G and D row? Okay. The G and D row is actually row number 4. If you count down. So I will then put it in row number 4. There we go. So it's all set up now. My circuit has been built, and let's see if this thing turns on. It works. So when I put my hand, it turns. And so you can't see it probably, but if I put my motor coupling on there, you'll be able to see. Watch this. Pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and assemble the tree, put it back together, and show you what it looks like. Okay, check it out. So this is my tree put back together. I got my sensor here. No touch. And it's going. Pretty cool. And so you'll see that there, this is all hanging off and stuff. So the way you fix that, we have these sticky foams that we provided in the bags, and so you can take one and stick the breadboard somewhere, or maybe you want to hide it underneath, right, so it looks better. Maybe you want to put a little enclosure, like a cardboard enclosure, over these the electronics, so that they don't get loose, and then kind of show people, and then people can play with it and then not mess up the connections. All right, so there you go. We've started with just a regular spinning robot tree. We made it faster, and then now we've added no touch sensor to it. Hope that was interesting and fun. Thanks for joining me in building this robot. I will see you next time. Bye.